Hello, my beautiful guys and dolls, and welcome to an episode of Before the Curtain. I'm your host, Abbie Campbell, and we are here to discover the passion behind the performance. Artists of all backgrounds will share their stories about what it takes to create, survive, and thrive in the competitive world of entertainment. Finding inspiration in their journeys, we aim to bring you everything that happens before the curtain. In the world of entertainment, most every show takes a curtain call. When the performers come back out on stage to acknowledge the audience's applause and take their final bow before that curtain closes, and I thought it would be fun to do one of our own. In this special segment, we are taking the most educational, inspirational, or wisdom-filled moments from our past episodes, bringing them back to the mic for a power-packed series. Here, you can get a glimpse into each guest, and if you want to dive deeper into their particular story, you can find the link to their episode in the description. So without further ado, let's give a big virtual welcome to our curtain call.
And I think a very pivotal thing and a piece of advice that I have for people is understanding what it is that you're communicating and believing in it 100% to properly communicate it and for them to be convinced that this is going to be everything that you're envisioning it to be. Because I started off a little wobbly. Okay. I was like, how am I wording this? What is this event? What is it that I am ultimately creating? What can they see that I'm producing and what that outcome is going to be, even though it has never been done yet?
Right. Taking the future and the vision that you see for yourself, your brand, your creation, and being able to transfer it through words to another person so that they see it too.
And not to sound like this, and I call us artists and I call other people muggles. Like, and
it's okay, I use normies.
Normies, muggles, like the 9-to-5ers, like what it is that like they don't understand of what it is that we do and making it like child book friendly. Like, this event is dope. Oh, okay, cool. And it's not always that easy.
D for dope.
It's not always that easy. And you do have to approach business people from a business perspective and standpoint.
Okay, so you said you started off wobbly in doing that. How did you?
I think it just came with like, what was my mission statement, solidifying that. What is it that I'm trying to achieve? What's my demographic? And there was a partnership that I was getting into. I'm going to toss them out there because I want to do business with them. True Fusion. I know someone in the True Fusion world. They were trying to put me in with their head of their marketing team to try to get money and income from that brand now as a sponsor to make sure that we could have a successful event. I was head over heels. I thought it was going to work out.
It's a fantastic big company.
And I go, and you think about it here in Vegas, how many performers are either instructors or
take classes
at True Fusion. So I go, this works perfect with the demographic of people in X, Y, and Z. And they were asking me, what is the demographic? And they've asked it maybe 3 different ways. And it took 3 different approaches. And sadly, that connection failed, which was really hard for me because I made other business transactions thinking that could have been a locked-in situation. And if that was a locked-in situation, again, everything financially that I would have gotten from them would have gone towards maybe better lighting, maybe a better, more decorations, being able to pay for the people that I have involved, more in a timely manner, and I'm thankful for the people that I did business with because they understood that I was taking this bill and I was coming out of pocket. Still to this day, almost 2 months out, coming out of pocket to make sure that people feel respected for the work that they've done. And I can maintain certain personal and business relationships. And they're very patient and understanding. And I'm eternally grateful for the people that I work with. And they see the vision moving forward to where this is going to be somewhere where we're going to get what we ultimately are now desiring. But coming into all these different business understandings of a setup and now executing it. And now it's taking, like, connect the dots, your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s and seeing the big picture. And then once you have your big picture, now it's fun. You get to color in. You get to make it look pretty and let it just run its course. And there's a lot of trial and errors that I've got from that process that I shove in my pocket. And I'll reference back to Danny Maloney. She's like, create a Bible as to like Genesis and the creation story, all the way to the nitty gritties and the ups and downs. That way, okay, round number 2. Okay, you're going back to that same book of Genesis. How can you read it and know that 1. you're building it the same way that you did it the first time, but then also fine-tuning the things that didn't work out, or knowing the knowledge that you have now, how can you develop that even more for it to expand on a larger scale? And I think now that it's been 2 months since the event, I've wanted more rest from it, but I've come back to myself a little bit more, and I've done a lot of wrapping up. I really have when the moon starts, it comes in and then it wanes out, that last little sliver, that's all I have left. And I'm so excited for that new, we'll say along the lines of a new moon phase of this project to come into play, because now I'm able to start fresh and watch it come into its full light again.
I think I'm just going to keep saying the same thing this whole time. It's because I've had such amazing people in my life. Yeah. Like the Phoenix, shout out. Badlands. These 2 bars in this town are a staple of my life.
Yeah.
They have given me the platform to express myself freely, to explore new mediums. Anytime I'm coming up with a new act or I want to try something new, those are the places, and they are so encouraging and with open hands. So I literally just loved this one song by Melanie Martinez for several years. And I've always gone into La La Land when I listen to music. I'm sure other people know what I'm talking about, but especially if you're a passenger in a car and you have your headphones in, you just go somewhere else. So that's my superpower, I think, is to envision things that I hear. So when I heard that song, I had this whole thing, this storyline, and then I was like, but I don't have a budget for a music video or a stage production. Right. I have me. That's all I have. And some clothes that I can get at Savers. So I didn't have much money.
Thrifting?
Girl, all I had was a little bit of coin in my pocket and the desire in my heart.
That is all you need.
Seriously. And so I was like, I have this cute little Hello Kitty backpack. My friend just gave me these stockings. The Phoenix just booked me.
Wait, so did the Phoenix book you and you didn't even have an act yet?
No, not at all.
Hang on, what? How did that happen?
Because
did they just ask for you?
Yeah, they're just my friends. My friend Michelle Bell, she's a hooper here in town.
Oh, yeah,
She was like, hey, I can't make it to this gig. Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah,
love her. Love her. I love working with her. Anything that she's involved with, I'm there. So she was like, hey, I can't do this thing with this drag queen Cinnamon, who I absolutely adore. And then I was like, okay, sure. I had 2 days. And I was like, I'll figure it out. And so my first act was just me hula hooping. And I was just like, whatever. I just show up with my hula hoop. Cool.
And no burlesque, just did the act. Okay.
Yeah. And that went great. And then the second one, I was like, I want to have fun. I want to do something that I've never really done before.
And you felt inspired and it felt right. And
that was it.
And it went well.
Yeah. It went really well. It's on Facebook. And
the whole act is on Facebook.
The whole act.
Okay.
And I had a stuffed animal that I've had since I was 7 in that act. And I was like, this is her debut, type of vibe. You know what I mean? It's about her. It's not about me. So it was fun. I just literally felt safe. That's how it started. And I think things with sensuality and femininity, it has to start from a place of safety.
Then was that super out of the box for you when you were let me come up with a burlesque act?
Oh, yeah.
That.
I've been a tomboy most of my life.
Yeah.
The whole nails, lashes, hair thing.
Get right, the dreads. We had the dreads.
Right.
We were living on a farm.
I didn't shave. I didn't care about nothing. I never looked in a mirror. My clothes that I wore, I had 3-4 pieces of clothing that I wore every day that was just going to get dog poop on it anyway. So I was like, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. It was totally, and I've never been a girly girl. So you know, like I ride motorcycles, I play video games all day, and I kind of am a slob and I'm gross. Even yesterday, I told my partner, I'm like over here picking at my skin. I'm like, you thought you were getting like a dainty little feminine girlfriend, didn't you? Because my perception of who I am on stage is not at all who I am in my real life. So, yeah. I'm like a gremlin in real life. All my real friends know that for sure.
So then how did you, I love that when you heard the song, you kind of just had this idea and you were like, okay, I got to do this act, I guess.
Yeah.
And like, was it your first instinct to do burlesque, or were you like, oh, I could hula hoop it?
No, I think it was my first instinct. Yeah.
Okay. And were you just like, great, I have 2 days, I got to get over this uncomfortable feeling?
I was not even
doing something new.
uncomfortable.
Oh.
I was just like, let's just try it and see how it goes. What's the worst that can happen? I suck.
Yeah. I mean, and they don't book you. I mean, like, yeah, that's the worst that can happen.
I didn't at all feel that way.
Yeah, because were you excited for it a little bit?
Yeah, I was nervous. I was excited, but I also felt safe. Like, no matter what I did, I felt like they were going to accept me anyway.
Oh.
Yeah. And I think that's really important when it comes to relationships like that, to be creative, you know?
Yeah, that's really important. And that's incredible that the fact that you've been able to have that safety in your pursuit in a career, whether you knew or not at the time that it was going to become a career.
Absolutely. And all my close friends and family, because I could definitely understand how my career is perceived as like a normal person that doesn't know me. You know, I've gotten a lot of comments about how provocative what I do is, and like, I get it. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people. That's okay. It's not for people. It's not for everyone. And as long as, though, the people in my immediate life understand that this is kind of like my political stance on my body, on my art, it's meant to make people feel uncomfortable. It's meant for people to think about what they just saw. It's not supposed to be easily digestible, you know? So I think as long as it's thought-provoking, and that's why I love burlesque so much. It's like my favorite medium of performance, just because I can really like expose who I am in such a weird, literal way, but also reclaim the power over myself again and be like, yeah, you can look, but you can't touch. Or maybe you can. And you know what? Just revel in it. And I've never, ever appreciated my body like that. So.
Is there anything, even like on the logistical side, like I should have started doing this earlier. I should have like done this differently now that I know how to produce this show. You know? Is there anything like that you could share? Like, I'm going to create a sheet for the schedule instead of, I don't know, a text thread. Like something stupid that you're like, I didn't think about this, but this really helps.
Honestly, I did not think about paying myself. That was what I did not think of. So I'm doing all of this work that's probably worth like thousands of dollars, I'm sure.
Yes,
but,
you are. You are worth thousands of dollars.
I did not pay myself that. You know, I was mostly wanting to take care of my cast and the people that were helping me put this on. My thing was, my success came from just putting it out. And I did not think about like, oh, I should get paid. I'm singing, I'm dancing, creating. I should probably pay myself, and I should probably pay myself well. I did not do that.
Remember earlier when you said artists just want to create and put their art out? Like it's kind of an Achilles heel, isn't it? And because, yeah, I'll just do it. Yeah, I'll be there. Of course, I'll just work.
So that's what I need to do all the time. Write in my price. I think that that's something important for all artists to know, that is their worth. And everybody has their own training. Sometimes they go to school for it. Sometimes they just train in experience. But we are all worth something at the end of the day. So that's what I need to work on, is knowing what that worth is and knowing what the price of it is. Because if money was no object, then it wouldn't matter. But we have to pay our bills and we have to, eat. Right? So I need to be better about understanding the prices for the skills that I have.
And it's so much easier to go to bat for someone else, right, than it is yourself.
I know, yeah. And that's the thing that I'm still dealing with now. But trying not to question my worth anymore, because I think I was doing that before. And of course, I didn't have as much experience as I do now. So now my worth is more than what it was maybe a few years ago. But I mean, financially, I'm saying. So that's what I am still working on, but I am better at it now because of this experience.
Questioning your worth, meaning like questioning if you think you can do it, or like how much you think you should ask for?
Both. Yeah,
okay.
Definitely both. More so, I mean, of course, putting a price on my talents and my skills, yes. But like, I think everybody should know that they can do whatever they want to do as long as they just put their mind to it and not let your fears and your anxieties and all of those things like really take over. Because that's normal. Of course, I had my own doubts and my anxieties, but then that's where like Trevor would come in to help me process those things and say, Frilly talked to you for a reason, you know? So just do it, you know, think of that. And then that helped me move on and get over my fears and just do it, you know?
Do you consider yourself a lucky person?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Has the interview switched? Would I consider myself a lucky person? That's a really deep question. Or like, I'm really thinking about it. I would consider myself, one of my life mottos is like, why the hell not?
Okay.
So I feel like because I just kind of say that all the time, I just end up being in situations and being so open to what happens that, you know, things can come in. I don't know if that would be considered luck.
Yeah.
You know, preparation meets opportunity is what my ballet teacher used to say. So if you're prepared,
my mom says that.
So if you're prepared and you show up prepared, the opportunity will find you.
Yeah.
And so I feel like just being prepared and being like, you know, why not? I feel like that's what brings what you can call luck.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I like that. I recently learned about this study that they did about how if people perceive themselves as lucky or unlucky, and they gave people like a newspaper and they said, count how many images there are, how many like photo spots there are in the newspaper. And there were like 42 images in total. And then on page like 3 or 4 of the newspaper was a huge bold print that said, there are 42 pictures in this newspaper. You can close it, or there are 42 pictures in the newspaper. Like, you give the answer. And so a higher percentage of the people who had previously said that they perceive themselves as lucky read the print, closed the newspaper, and said, oh, there are 42 images.
Oh, I would have said, no, I don't trust that. I would have still counted the pictures.
Interesting.
That's trauma.
Interesting. Okay. But anyways, and so they just found like there was the people who said they perceive themselves as unlucky typically missed that and also made more mistakes in counting the number of images. And I think the point was kind of like, if you consider yourself lucky, then you're open to more opportunities from the beaten path.
Yeah.
You know, you're more open to like things coming your way to like influence your decision or maybe not influence your decision, but like you're more open to other possibilities.
Right.
And I kind of liked that. And I thought that was kind of relevant to our industry and
it is
being open to opportunities, even if they're not the more obvious options.
Right. No, and I like that because it's also, you know, when I think of luck, I think of, you know, or maybe the typical version of luck of things that just are handed to people, right? That's kind of, and maybe that's like a little bit of a distorted version of luck that I see, and so maybe I need to clean those glasses off. But like, that's what I think of, and so it's like, you know, you ask me that, and I'm like, because I feel like I haven't, like I've worked for everything that I have, and I feel like without that preparation and without that past hard work, dedication, and commitment, I wouldn't be able to see the opportunities and I wouldn't be able to acknowledge them or even, again, be open to them. So I don't know where I'm going with that.
Yeah. No, I see what you mean. I guess, the word luck can take many different connotations.
Yeah.
I think perhaps your definition of preparation meeting opportunity.
Shout out Don Bellamy.
Can probably be like, I really like that. Perhaps that can be more the most relevant for our industry, because it's also like, you know, being prepared and having more experience helps you realize which of these small opportunities you need to look out for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being like, oh, this is a really small gig, and I know it might not like be that glamorous, but like I know the choreographer there like works for someone else, so like I think I should do this one. You know, kind of just like have more knowledge about
the discernment.
Which ones? Yeah, the discernment.
And
so perhaps that can, help you spot the opportunities better.
Sounds like what you started with was that core value of bringing people together, and it's just like making it a place for everyone. And you have also brought that into a professional space, not just into the community of like creating that M&M show, but now you are professional booking dancers and making it more. And you've still held on to that value, which is, amazing. You started there and you're still there. And again, not every company or person can say that, because there's times where you can get caught up in the industry and get caught up in that professional world of like, okay, well now I can't have this person because this client doesn't like them, and that would have been so easy to like kind of follow.
I've actually stopped working with clients when they've said anything negative about any of my girls.
Wow.
I think I'm not willing to sacrifice my morals and how I feel about things. Like, I'm not willing to work with you if you have a sick mentality or you have like nasty mentality. Like, I'd rather not have work than work with people that have like this mentality of women, or especially because I do work mainly with women. I do have men, but women, like if they have mentality of women are objects or anything like that, I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't work with you. I can't put my girls in that space, in that setting, because I've struggled so much for myself to not be put in those settings and places where I'm uncomfortable and I don't want to work somewhere, or I don't want you to be treating me a certain way because of a certain look I have, because we get that a lot, like I don't like those things. So if I can create a safe space or create like a safe, I guess, company for women and people, then why not do it? Same thing like our events. Like, that's the whole reason why we started doing this to begin with, to be able to like give everybody that like safe space,
Exactly. And that's, again, just amazing that that's something that's a non-negotiable for you.
No.
Was there ever like, was there ever a time or like maybe a certain turning point where that was, maybe a client said that and you kind of wavered on that belief? Or were you always just very like, no, if you don't treat me right, it's, we're done?
Yeah, I think when I started Las Vegas Dance Movement, for sure, I was still trying to figure out what kind of company I wanted to be. Like, I knew inside of my heart, like, based on all the traumas and situations I've been put in, what I didn't want it to be. But I think starting out, just making those decisions were very difficult for me, because when you start out, you want to make sure you start booking, you start getting people, and you start getting a good of constant girls and things like that. And it's hard. I'm not a company or anything that makes anybody sign a contract or makes you be exclusive, because I'm a freelancer. Like, I'm going to go work where I'm making money. And I've even told my girls, if you can't make it because something else better comes out, go ahead and do it. You know what I mean? Like, there's a bunch of other girls that can cover or can do it or whatever it is. But yeah, at the beginning, it was difficult. I think it was difficult, not so much because of my values or internally what I wanted to do, but if you have to change other people's minds as well, as far as you have to educate people. In the Latin scene back in the day in clubs and stuff like that, paying go-go dancers $50 an hour, paying like a specific rate was not a thing. It was kind of like they can show up and get tips. So even just starting out was very difficult, because you have to educate people, like, no, you have to pay them for their job. You have to educate people about like manners. Like, you can't touch a girl. It's not a strip club. They're atmosphere dancers. And in the Latin world, there's a fine line. Like, maybe people don't know this, but in the Latin nights or clubs, back in the day, there was a fine line between those two things. Like, people, if they saw a dancer in like a box or something, they would think they were strippers, and I would have to be like, no, these are girls that are supposed to give atmosphere to your place and, create ambience. And even those things, like, they didn't exist before, I feel, like in the Latin world for a while. Like I worked with different clubs here in Vegas, Latin clubs, because that's my specialty, I guess, or like even Latin artists or music videos, like knowing the difference between women that are gonna like just do whatever you want them to do and women that are professional and they want to be able to like be it, you know? Like I'm coming to be in your music video. This is what my job description is. I'm coming to your club to be an atmosphere dancer. This is what my description is. This is what you got to pay. All those little things, I feel like throughout the years I've had to kind of educate. Like that's when at the whole fusing of worlds, you know, finding those lines are as well, because in the Latin world, you had to teach what the industry world, how the industry works. And then the industry world, just educating them that Latin industry is also part of the industry. Just things like that. It's always been like challenging, you know, because I feel like before it didn't exist. I don't think worlds used to collide as much as they do now. Now, thankfully, you know, Bad Bunny, Daddy Yankee, all of them kind of made the Latin world explode and everybody wants a Latin night. So now it's like worlds are colliding and they can work together, you know? So just things like that, like I think have been a challenge for sure. So I have never wavered in my values, but I think for sure it has been challenging to educate both worlds on what Latin people can do and then educating Latin people what industry or how professional things are managed or done.
I feel like when you don't know what you're supposed to do, it's because you're not supposed to know yet. And whenever you know, you know. So I believe a lot of times when I'm in the unknown in my life, I write it. And then like, I feel like life shows me in like a glowing sign when I'm supposed to make a choice, you know? And this kind of segues me into like, I'll tell a little bit of my story with Cirque. So it's like, I'm from a very small town, Pennsylvania, literally middle of nowhere. Absolutely middle of nowhere. You have to drive an hour to get to a movie theater. So, yeah, the woods. And my first exposure to how you could work as a professional was with Cirque du Soleil because I went to a dance school an hour away as well. And during like our lunch breaks and stuff, they would play Cirque du Soleil on our little TV. So like I'd watch and I'm like, oh, wow, this is cool. And I always wanted to be a lizard in the circus. It was like my phrase. So did everything I could to become a professional. I auditioned for 14 schools because I needed to figure out how the industry worked. Got into one, literally one, and just really hit the ground running from there. Went to Shenandoah Conservatory, and I started auditioning for Cirque when I was a junior. I got databased in Phoenix, went through the whole 3-day audition, and then auditioned again years later in San Francisco, again in Las Vegas, and that's not to count like the smaller calls that I did for them. So it was a really, really long process, but it was always like my goal, you know? So it's like, I need to fixate on this. It was a 9-year process before I actually booked the job that I'm on now. And with that, though, it gave me my trajectory for my whole career. So it's like, I wasn't working Cirque, but everything that inspired me about Cirque like drove me. So it's like I trained circus, I trained dance, I trained my choreography. I looked at this show and these apparatuses were in it. So I learned those apparatuses. And with that, my whole career took shape. It's like I wouldn't have had the career I had unless I had the drive to do Cirque. So it's interesting because if that wouldn't have happened, I still would have had this like beautiful career the whole time, you know? So it's interesting. I like to say we make plans and God laughs, you know, that. So I was like, I'm going to book this. Did I think it was going to take me 9 years? No, you know, no, I did not. And I didn't have any idea all the jobs it would get me. Like, because I wanted to do something like Cirque du Soleil, I booked Particle Inc., which was like a show that like set my soul on fire, you know? So it's interesting, I think, you know, with everything. It's like, when do you give up on an idea? Maybe it's not giving up on the idea, but it's being open to what the idea will bring to you. Because it's like, it may not be exactly what you think it looks like, but it's what it's meant to be, you know? So, yeah, I don't necessarily think it's about giving up. I think it's about being open.
That's a really good way to, again, shift the perspective of, as you were talking, I was thinking like, yeah, there's that open goal. And in order to get to that goal and you learn all of these tricks of the trade and end up still being open to other opportunities as you're still working on a goal. And I think sometimes that can be difficult to understand that I'm still working towards this goal, but still doing other things on the side, which is amazing how, again, that road can still bring you to where you want to be without you even realizing it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I also kind of thought was like, it's really cool that you were able to start creating so young and in your conservatory and keep that kind of spark. Was it difficult to start creating so young?
I mean, you know, when you look back at something you make years ago and you're like, oh,
who let me do that?
Yeah. I still feel that way. But it's cool because my brain was always the same. It was just how I learned how to interpret my brain with physicality that changed. So I feel like I developed my movement language more so later, but it was like my way of storytelling was always the same. So it's interesting when you like look back at that stuff, you're like, you can see the development, but also you can see where you were, like your core essence. And I am really thankful that I started choreographing that young because they're the people who taught me the tools. So like our choreography classes were basically like labs and they were like, you have this assignment. So I remember we had like an assignment that was music visualization and they basically like gave us a random song and we had to create to every sound that we heard and present that. Like it was like everything was a different task. One, they had us collaborate with the musicians in our conservatory and we did like a live performance with them. So it was nice because, like, again, even this idea of unattachment, we weren't trying to make our, like, life's work. We were just trying to make work. And, like, you make it, it exists, and then it goes away. And that's okay. Yeah.
Just like an essay you write in school. Like, you just write it and create it, and it doesn't have to stay with you.
Yeah.
You can let it go.
I think, too, it's like, my friend had this tattoo that said something about, like, you can't rely on inspiration, something like that, but it was prettier. And I always was like, what does that mean? And it's like in creation, you're not always inspired to create. Again, you're working for this choreographer and they give you that music that you're like, you know? And it's like, how do you keep creating even when you're not inspired? And it's like, once you learn that skill, it's like you can choreograph anything, you know? Because sometimes, again, like I'll choreograph something, I'm like, I know what I want to say. I know how I want to say it. And other times I'm like, okay, we're going to make some moves and see where it lands. And both those are valid.
You know, and I'm so humbled that you see it all that way, because that makes my heart happy. Because I'm just I don't know, I'm happy to be here.
But what you did? So, for example, what you did in that moment when you were at Enchant, and they're like, "We need an MC," and you put your hand up. 99.999% of the people wouldn't do that. They just wouldn't put themselves out there. So I don't want to take this quote because it's not my quote, but I always refer back to it. Success happens in your life when preparation and opportunity intersect, right? So it's like you could be totally prepared. You could have trained. You could be ready to go. You as a dancer, right? Let's say you've trained at the best schools. You're in the best shape of your life. You have all the experience, right? You're totally prepared, but the opportunities just aren't coming. Right? They're just not hitting. Or opportunities can arise and you're injured or you're out of shape or you don't know how to make that. So when those moments in your life happen and you can if you mapped out your life, you can almost draw a circle when those things intersect. Like at that moment, when they said, we need an MC and you raised your hand. And then all of a sudden you became the MC at Enchant, which then during New Year's you saw me, which led to that conversation, which then led to me helping you develop this and become right. Like that was the moment. So when somebody says to you, well, what was at what point did you become an MC? You're saying, well, I was at Enchant and they needed somebody. I raised my hand and I went for it.
And it's actually funny because you are now the third person that I've talked to in the last like few weeks that we've talked exactly about preparation and opportunity. And they will always meet when what's the other analogy that I'm looking for? Like when the student's ready, the master appears type thing. And I have found so far that a lot of the way that the people that I've talked to have evolved so far are exactly that. I think I just solved my podcast. I can now stop. I'm just kidding. And it's so interesting to see how everybody comes to that either realization or have come to those milestones in their journeys, because it is different for everybody. Because there's some people who, you know, have worked so hard and had to like grind and really fight for what they're doing. And there's some people who just like have fallen into it.
Fell into their lap.
And it's also so, again, it's so inspiring to hear because there's no right answer.
Right.
You know, it can always be a different one.
The one part of that you have more control over is the preparation.
Mm-hmm.
You can't always control whether or not the opportunities will come to you. But if you prepare and make yourself, it's that saying, stay ready and you have to get ready, right? So if there's something that you want, whether it be a dancing gig or an MC gig, if you prepare for that and you study for that and you train for that, then when the opportunity comes up, hopefully you're ready to go. But again, I feel that's the part where you control, whereas the opportunity sometimes you can't really control.
Do you think sometimes it's about spotting the opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. I fully believe in that. You have to also be looking for it. You have to be open to it. You have to sometimes get creative with it. Sometimes you've got to fight for it. So.
Okay, so we're going to slightly pivot. Actually, no, we're going to pivot. Has there ever been a time or an experience where you've had to kind of more fight and grind for a gig or an event?
I don't know if I would classify it as fight and grind, but it kind of goes back to what I was saying before. There have been times when I was not somebody's first choice, right? But then for whatever reason, something happened. Either the person got sick or they got double booked or there was a falling out, and it was like, okay, well, let's give Brian a shot. And I walked into that knowing that I wasn't the first choice, which is fine, right? Which is fine. I don't carry any of that. The only thing that does for me is motivate me to work even harder to prove them even more wrong. But those opportunities have happened several times. And then they have blossomed and turned into great relationships. And, it's always nice to feel inside like, okay, I knew I could do this. I knew all along I could do this. I don't do I told you so. I never do I told you so. Even though inside you're like, I told you so.
It always is that little evil, like,
yeah,
that's right.
Dance to me, and I've said this before, is more than just a lifestyle. Like it's, it was my therapy as a child because of stuff that happened, right? And now I am so adamant about communicating well, about being a voice, not just for myself, but for other people when possible. And I have dance to thank for that, right? Dance has definitely helped me with all of it. I feel like my story, if anything, has a lot to do with the childhood trauma and dance together, and why I am the way that I am. So I think I'm pivoting. Am I pivoting? Yeah.
But shout out childhood trauma. I mean, makes us who we are.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm going to get a little sentimental for a moment because hearing you talk already, your background, the values that you hold, it's so amazing to see it tied throughout your life so far and tied into not only how you are with yourself, but also how you show up when you teach and when you choreograph and when you're working in a professional space and when you're with people either one-on-one or, again, in your own class. You always have that healing intention and therapeutic intention and creating a space for people to feel uninhibited. And I could get this very wrong because I am not you, but I think because you hold that so strong, you attract those people and people just feel like they can explore that when they're around you, which to me is incredible because that's such a sacred space. And now I'm going to start crying.
Yeah. I forgot where I said this, but it I said it and it just came out. Oh, I was talking to a really good friend of mine. We were just hanging out at home, and I told him that, not just in dance, but in in everyday life, I think it is important to me to show up a certain kind of way because there's already so much harm in the world, right? And two,
be a safe space for anyone that's like near and dear, I think is important to me.
Yeah, wow. That statement is so like it rings like to like the root of who I am, I think, you know. Yeah. Yeah, that's important to me.
I love that. We need people in the world like you.
Yeah.
For sure. You probably heal and help a lot more people than you have any idea.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah. I mean, that feels good to hear. And it's interesting because, you know, we all live in our own bubble in our minds, and we're constantly, you know, questioning ourselves and I mean, not everyone, but meaning like anyone that practices awareness, I think tries to do that, right? And I have my challenges for sure on you know, when I can be a better person. Yeah. But thank you. That means a lot.
That's one thing that I talk with our producers and my co-director Zach is like, this show's about casting, so our casting always has to be on point. And we take it very serious. Like for a comedy, we take our casting very serious. And we've been that way from the beginning. And I actually, in the production side, I kind of got my start as a casting director. I've casted over 7 feature films and done all that stuff. So I know the process, the nuts and bolts, at least how I've done it for the indie film. I know it's a lot different in Hollywood, and you have like, you know, you're talking with agents who have name actors and all that stuff. And that's a whole other layer. But like the nuts and bolts of just finding that day player, that person, you know, and or finding unknown talent is, you know, is kind of what I specialized in an indie film. And so it's kind of funny that ironically I'm an actor and a casting director who's making a show about casting directors, but we take the casting very serious. And it's serious is like, is this the right person for the role? Do they make us laugh? Are they funny? Is it? And honestly, I as a casting director, and especially for this show, and because it's a small budgeted project, we don't have the opportunity to bring in some of these huge working actors in LA and in New York that are on all these shows. We're looking for up and coming actors that are like diamonds in the rough, that are just looking for their shot. And we definitely have a Vegas bias. So we throughout the casting process, of course, the first thing we look at is your headshot. So actors, and this is important for me too, I need to get new headshots, but make sure that your pictures look like you 100%, not the best version of you. Well, maybe the best version of you on a normal day, but make sure you look like your dang headshot. Because if you don't, we see you and you're like, well, that's not the person that we brought in. You're going to lose your chance. So yeah, I just went off on a whole like thing, but I just want everybody to know that if there's like artists out there, and it's surprising like how many people just have like, you know, it's like, well, just go out in your backyard and you can get a good picture of yourself. So make sure you look like your dang headshots. Back to my casting process. Sorry. Yeah. So the main things I'm looking at in the casting process is, you know, do you look like the character that we're looking for? And I usually like it if they have an acting reel, but not necessarily. And especially if you're in Vegas, if you submit, more than likely just going to give you a shot, because I want everybody in Vegas to have an opportunity. And then outside of Vegas, we also cast on like all the casting sites out there. Generally, I stick to the people who have reels and have headshots, and everybody has a resume. It's honestly very rare that I may look a quick glance at a person's resume, specifically if it's like there's a skill I'm looking for. But most of the time it's like, look, all right, you're probably good enough, or, you know, you have a reel, so at least you've done some acting. Here's your shot. Show us what you can do. You know, send us a tape of you doing the audition. And that's how I've worked most of the time, because I don't care what you've done in the past. What I care about is, are you right for the character? And can you can you be professional enough to follow the directions of the casting notice and give us your best performance? And, surprisingly, there's a lot of even professional actors that don't read the casting notice correctly or the character notes correctly or know how to follow the directions. And, those are such important things because those tell us whether you can follow directions on set and you can work as a professional. And if you can't do that in the casting process, you're probably not going to do that on set. So, and I feel like I'm very proud of us finding these people that, they really earn their spot by auditioning for us, and B, that they really fit the casting well. And I feel like we've done very well with just being able to just do what we have, not having the Hollywood connections and having the budget to pay some of the Hollywood actors and all that sort of stuff.
But again, we work so well together. And it's just always so easy when, again, you guys are just on the same page. And we work together again, at Mayfair, we see it, we see where it can go, and we do the work. We help each other out. If he can't do something, I can do it. If I can't get to it, he'll do it. We communicate that way. And also, his sister, Tiffany, oh my God, our marketing genius, and it's always so nice working with people who are experienced. It's helpful. And for me, I'm always going to be a student. I don't let the ego or my pride get in the way. I'm like, if I don't know something, I'm okay with shutting up. I'll ask my questions. I have my notebook and my pen, and I will take notes because I want to be the best version of myself. And same for you and same for anybody, So it's great to have her on board as well and help with her great expertise too. And yeah, the three of us are truly unstoppable. And Tiffany is Jordy's sister, by the way, too. They grew up with each other, obviously, so they know how each other works. It's easy. But to have me on board and be welcomed is such a blessing. So I'm super grateful for that, for sure. Just having a good team. Yeah.
First off, what a quote is, I'll always be a student.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because I don't know everything. I may act like it sometimes. It's funny. You know what? When I was in school, teaching at the middle school, and I became the cheerleader, the assistant coach. Mind you, I've never cheered because it's different. We all know this. Dance and cheer is completely different. I was always on the dance teams. I never really cheered. And the PE teacher, she never cheered, but she was the coach. And she was just like, listen, you go in there and you let them talk. We don't know anything, but we're here in the leadership position and you learn, but you have to help orchestrate it. That's what it is. You just have to help orchestrate everything and get things moving along, but you let them play. And you'll learn because, you listen to people talk if you don't know something, but you've been placed in a situation where you have to be the leader, even though you don't know what the hell you're doing. But it's a learning process, and you just have to listen and be sensible and just make sure that you're adding value to it and really listen to the people, and just help move things along. So I just thought that was hilarious. I'm like, Coach, I thought you cheered. You're so good at it. She's like, I don't know nothing. I let them do the talking and I just help. I'm the one who's like 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, no, that looked good. That did it. Let's figure it out, So it's funny. But I learn quickly, and being a dancer, it's a great skill you have to pick up quickly. And I feel like dancers can excel in anything, any other work, occupation.
Absolutely.
Because you have to use your eyes when dancing or even learning to dance. Your ears, obviously, and it's physical, but you have to watch and you have to pick it up. You have to repeat what it is that you're doing or what they're demonstrating. So, yeah, I feel like that's a good skill.
Oh, yeah, complete side tangent. Yes, because not only do we have to listen, we have to watch, you have to apply. And I think that's probably what the biggest skill I think dancers have. And that's why I personally believe, and I think a lot of us believe, that dancers are the best people for everything.
Yes.
Because we had to not only learn, but we had to apply the quickest. Because if not, your teacher was screaming at you.
Oh.
And if you didn't fix it, you were either doing push-ups or you were being scolded in some way because you didn't apply. And that's where knowledge becomes wisdom, is an application. And because dancers had to learn that so young and do it all their lives, that's truly why I think we're very good at learning a lot of things, being good at a lot of things, and just figuring things out.
Yeah,
you know?
On the fly sometimes. It truly is a discipline, you know? You got to be in it. And talk about pressure. When you're like, you got to pick it up. Yeah, working with choreographers or whatever, you know, they'll look at you like you're stupid if you don't.
If you don't figure it out. Yeah. And especially when you're assisting a choreographer in a room in front of other people. And it's like, you know, you haven't learned it yet, but you're learning it with them. And yet you still have to know it even better than the kids or who's taking the class, because you're the one that's assisting. So it's just, the pressure's crazy.
Or even knowing it better than the choreographer, like executing it better than them. That's the thing. And the pressure. Woo!
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So
but it's fun.
It's
fun. We tell ourselves that. We love it. Here we go.
This is what I've chosen to do with my life. It's fun and I love it. Starts crying.
I was going to say, run crying afterwards. Oh my God. Oh, we love this.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love it so much. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Before the Curtain. Please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe wherever it is you listen to the podcast. We love to hear your virtual round of applause. If you know of a production or artist that deserves to have their story told, send us an email or message us on Instagram by clicking the link in the description.